This is a Willets Point Shea Stadium bound 7 express train. The next and last stop is Willets Point, Shea Stadium.
Oh, yes, it is the Subway to Shea podcast. Anthony Rivera here with you, talking about all the news and happenings surrounding that team from Queens, the New York Mets. It is episode 150. Yes, I said it, 150 here. And before we get into the guest, our guest co-host, before we get into everything else, I gotta obviously promote all the social media. Follow Subway to Shea on X and Instagram, TikTok at Subway to Shea. You can follow me at Ant Rivera 86. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube as well. And without further ado, joining me and co-hosting this show today is my guy Greg, but you know him as the Jingle Man. What's up, Jingle Man?
What's up, Subway to Shea? How's it going, man?
I'm doing well, man. It's great to have you on. And obviously, you're on X at Real Black 14. I got to say, man, we got to start off with a positive note. You're one of the more positive Met fans out there. So before we get into all of the stuff going on with this national series, the Pirates as well, let's start off. And we got to talk about Kodai Senga because he had his rehab start for Brooklyn. And pitched 2 2/3 innings, no hits, no earned runs, no walks, 6 strikeouts, 35 pitches, 25 strikes. He reached 98 miles per hour. I mean, what are your thoughts on Kodai on this road back to getting to the Mets?
It's a very exciting thing. Prior to him getting hurt, he was our ace. All of those statistics that I was looking at a couple of minutes ago were very positive, especially him hitting 98 on the gun. That was huge. Right now, we currently have a staff that's 21st in ERA, it looks like. So he would be a welcome addition to help improve that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think that, with Kodai Senga coming back and whether it is a 6-man rotation or, whether they, skip every start for him, this obviously fares well for a guy like Jose Budo, who's going to probably be that relief guy like we saw in Washington, who gave us 2 scoreless innings. And obviously, he'll probably get some time to spot start as well, because I know Kodai Senga is not going to pitch every 5th day. Definitely not coming back from this injury. So the fact that we add maybe another man every other time in the rotation or whatever to lengthen out these starting pitchers, maybe it helps them out because, these guys have not gone deep into games. Although this past week we got 7 innings from Jose Quintana, 7 great innings. You had Sean Manaea reach his highest innings length for the Mets and this season when he got 7 innings. You had David Peterson go into the 7th inning. And that's good to see because this bullpen is very tired.
Right. And so I was talking to you about that actually the other day on the space where it's really a war of attrition when it comes to the bullpen. And we leaned on the bullpen pretty heavily earlier on in the season. And because of that, attrition is starting to show sooner rather than later. So it's really important getting a Senga back and, infusing more Buto. That's pretty funny. But, he could really help us. And as he did with 2 great innings, he got us 6 outs. I think there should be more of that to come. Arms from within that could help us to do, a little longer relief. But also, guess what's on the horizon? Diaz is coming back, and that is going to be a huge help.
Yeah, it definitely is. And, I look at a comment here and shout out to the 21 people already that are in this room with us, joining us, going to add to the chat, leave your comments, leave your questions. And G Money Stacks, I want to answer this question real quickly because he asked if Edwin Diaz comes back, will Jake Diekman get designated for assignment? And I thought that at first I had tweeted that out. I was like, oh, as soon as that Diaz comes back, we'll just throw Jake Diekman out of here. But the fact that the Mets are down a guy in the bullpen because of this rule, there will be no one that gets sent down when Edwin Diaz comes back. And, Junior Swingman, shout out to him as well, saying, because of what we've seen with this pitching staff and basically what we saw from Jose Quintana since the return of Francisco Alvarez. It's that Francisco Alvarez effect on the entire starting staff.
Yeah, Alvarez has done wonders for our staff. The numbers are well documented. The difference between when he catches versus all of Mets catchers, the difference is staunch. So the fact that we have this young star who's so young but yet so mature to be able to help manage grown men and instill confidence with every pitch, you could see how he, aside from the framing, you could see how demonstrative he is when his teammates are executing their pitches. And, Mania actually said, from a psychological standpoint, it makes him feel good when he does that. So he's got the full package. This kid is unbelievable.
Yeah, I liked everything that I've seen from Francisco Alvarez so far. And it's a great way to put it. He's the full package. He can hit. Obviously, he plays decent defense. We can need to see actually a little bit more from him when it comes to throwing runners out at second, and maybe Luis Torrens can help out with that, since Luis Torrens has been so good behind the plate and throwing runners out at second. But as you saw, when they brought in Torrens, they've gotten better at throwing runners out, trying to steal bases, and that's been good even with Francisco Alvarez behind the plate. But he calls a great game. He pitch frames well, and that's something that you would love to see anytime you have a catcher that's the number one prospect in all of baseball, like he was a couple years back. I want to get in with you and talk about this series that has passed us, and that's the series with the Nationals. The Mets and the Nationals split their series 2 games each in this 4-game set. Game 1, we saw the Mets outlast the Nationals in 10, which was a 9-7 score. In that game. Hold on one second. Let me try to get rid of the banner I have here from the comments. And there we go. All right. There we go. And now I got another banner up. Look at this. Look at the start I'm off to right now. Here we go. There we are. We're ready. All right. David Peterson, like we talked about, 6 1/3 innings pitched, 7 hits, 2 runs, 2 earned, 1 walk, and 2 strikeouts, 3 RBIs each from JD Martinez and Francisco Alvarez. That big 3-run home run from JD in the 10th inning helped them win that game. You got a home run from Jose Iglesias, his first as a Met and his first of the season. Game 2, the Mets win also in 10, 7-2. Sean Manaea, like we said, that was the most innings he's pitched this season. 7, 5 hits, 2 runs, only 1 of them earned, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts. You got 2 hits each from Francisco Lindor, Brandon Nimmo, and Pete Alonso. Jose Iglesias again in the extra innings had the game-winning double, and then Alonso hit that 2-run shot to kind of put the stamp on that game. Jose Butto, 2 scoreless innings in his return, a guy that I did not want to see leave this team, comes back after pitching 100, after throwing 100 pitches. I think it was 3 days before this. It was great to see Jose Butto come in and do what he does best. Game 3, Mets blow a 5-run lead, lose 7-5. That was the big blow right there. Christian Scott, you look at his stats, 5 2/3 innings pitched, 6 hits, 4 runs, 4 of them earned, 2 walks, 2 Ks. It's a tale of a weird game for him because he pitched so well and then gave up that big home run to, I think it was Luis Garcia Jr. Then you had home runs from the Mets from Tyrone Taylor, Francisco Lindor, Mark Vientos. Game 4, there's nothing you could do about it. It was just a well-pitched game on both ends. The Nationals shut out the Mets 1-0. Jose Quintana, like I mentioned, 7 innings pitched, 4 hits, no runs, 3 walks, and 1 strikeout. You got the one and only hit from the Mets from Jeff McNeil. And then the big blow off of Adrian Hauser. That was that 1 run that they needed. And it was a Jesse Winker home run. Of all people, Jesse Winker coming to destroy the Mets like he does best. And Jingle Man, like I said, you know what? I just want to trade for him so we don't have to deal with it anymore.
Right. I mean, he would fit in really well with us here in New York. And it's funny because after a while, he took a liking to the fans and the fans actually took a liking to him. It just sucks that he just keeps being that guy. And of course, he's going to take that hanger of I believe that was a curveball maybe, but he crushed that thing. And we all, we were all like, of course that happened.
What were your biggest takeaways from the series in its entirety?
All right, so you had the microcosm of the Mets this season in that series, right? So you had the offensive explosion, but you also on the tail end you saw when the bats were quiet, what happens. From the pitching standpoint, the bullpen, it was shaky in game one, and it was shaky most of the series, especially since Diaz has been gone. Um, you basically saw us being hot, and you also basically saw where our leaks are with the bullpen, of course. So I wouldn't get too excited one way or another. We split the series, I believe, correct? 2-2.
Yep.
Yeah, we split the series. I would have loved to take 3 out of 4. That was definitely my goal. But unfortunately, we have to move forward. We have a slew of games coming up, and we have to dominate them. But basically, what I have written down, though, it's a tale of two teams, essentially. Offense, we're a playoff offense, right? And you saw that this series, the runs, right? We're top 5 in home runs in the MLB. We're number 4. We're 6th in the National League in batting average. We're 10th in the MLB in on base percentage, 8th in slugging in the MLB, 8th in OPS. So all top 10 numbers. 6th in the MLB in runs per game, 3rd in the National League. You saw that this series, right? But on the tail end of things, I don't even want to. Should we even get into the bullpen numbers yet, or we're going to talk about that later?
No, we're definitely going to talk about the bullpen for sure. But like I do agree with you. The offense seems like a playoff caliber type offense right now, and they just ran into a good pitcher in the last game. He pitched his butt off, 8 innings. Like you really can't fault them in that loss where they only were able to get 1 hit. The only game that they should have had was the 3rd game where they blew a 5-0 lead. Outside of that, I mean, they played a pretty crisp series, I think. And like you said, the bullpen is the big problem. And let's get into the bullpen here because the Mets bullpen woes have been shown big time, especially over the last 2 series, especially with the fact that we don't have Edwin Diaz in the bullpen, and we're minus a pitcher on top of that because it's not like an IL stint where if Edwin Diaz was to go down, we'd get another pitcher. So we're basically down 2 pitchers at this moment in time. And what we've seen from the bullpen at the fact that they cannot handle these, late innings, and with guys like Jake Diekman, Reed Garrett coming back down to earth, and then you kind of have the clearance rack of bullpen pieces when you look at a guy like Matt Festa, who decided to take to go to free agency now. I just read that. And then you got the Tyler Jays of the world. So the Mets are trying to piece this thing together. We got to look into how to fix this thing. You talk about trades, you talk about internally. We talked about it during the space of how internally this is going to be fixed, because right now there's nothing to trade for. If you are going to trade for relievers and you want one of these big high priced relievers, you're going to be looking to give up some, capital from your prospect pool. Right now, it's, I think, junk for junk. Like I said, you're going to get these clearance type relievers.
Right. And that's essentially what's out there, unless you're willing to part with prospects, right? Or maybe a position player. People have floated out McNeil, but I love McNeil, but what kind of value are you going to get back for a McNeil right now? But you really hit it on the head when you talked about being a man short numbers wise. You can't replace Diaz on the roster physically, right? So you can't add another arm. And we talked about the bullpen and it being a war of attrition over time. We're already taxed. We're already tired. We've leaned on them way too much already. And now you're taking a man away that you can't replace. So this is why we are seeing the numbers that we've been seeing as of late since the suspension. It has been exacerbated because of what has happened with the Diaz suspension, right? So now you're asking more of an Adam Ottavino. You're asking more of a Nunez. You're asking more of these arms. And I got to say, one slight bright spot is Ty Adcock. He's actually come in and done pretty well so far for the most part. But yeah, the bullpen has been a problem. I really do think when Diaz comes back in and we have the full complement amount wise of bullpen arms, you'll start to see the numbers looking a little bit better. But also, we are going to need to also Reed Foley. Do you know when Reed Foley's coming back?
Not until after the All-Star break. I thought he was going to be back sooner, but now they're saying after the All-Star break, and that also hurts.
That hurts big time. I mean, if you look at his numbers, he was pitching at an all-star clip. So losing a Sean Reed Foley was awful, absolutely awful. And good luck replacing that because he was a dog. But hopefully he'll be back sooner rather than later, and that will help the bullpen as well. But you talk about where we're at right now, and we're approaching the deadline. I really do not see the front office making a huge splash there. However, I do see them being more creative, like they were with the Buto move and bringing him back and having him give us 2 innings and get us 6 outs. We have more arms down there, more qualified arms down there to bring up and help out if needed and to get us those outs. And they don't have to be relievers necessarily by trade. They could be starters. You get in where you fit in, you be a good teammate, you come up and you help us where we're weak. So that's how I see we address it.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like that is the only way right now. I know a lot of people want to get new, fresh faces in here, want to do the trade route. But like I said, and like we've talked about, look, you're only really at this point in time, if you don't want to be giving up prospect capital, you're going for junk. You're going for the Tyler Jays. You're going for the like the Diekmans of the world. That's what's going to be available at this moment in time. And actually, there was a guy that just signed today, Carl Edwards Jr. He's got a career 3.54 ERA in 2022, 2.76, 23, 3.69. I'm surprised that they did not reach out to him. And I know you'd have to ramp up and stuff. But like, that's the guy that I'm surprised that the Mets did not go after here when it comes to this bullpen. And it just tells you that they are looking internally at how to fix this situation. And when you got guys like Jose Budo, Adrian Hauser, and even Dedeno Nunez who come in, they pitch multiple innings, and I assume, and as Maureen puts it, put McGill in the bullpen. That's going to be the next step. That's another step that we're going to see. That's how they're going to try to fix the bullpen at this moment in time. G Money Stacks asks, why is the bullpen this taxed? And it goes in part with the answer from what Shea Parking Lot says. Pitchers generally only going 5 innings. For the first half and most of April, the team was not getting length out of their starting pitchers. We've been seeing it so far, out this month of June and more of July. We're seeing the starters go deep into games. But when you have your starting pitchers only going 5 innings, you're diving into that bullpen on a daily basis. And that's not good for this team. You have to have someone in the rotation that's stable, that can give you 7 innings every so often. And, now they're starting to get some of that from Sevy. We saw it from Anaya, Jose Quintana. We're seeing in front. And if they can continue to do this, then the bullpen will get a lot more rest. I mean, look at Reed Garrett. He's a totally different guy than he was in April. In April, he was Dedeno Nunez. In April, he was Jose Budo. I think he had like a 0.78 ERA for April. And now he's been used so much that he's exhausted and he's tired. And it's like most of the bullpen outside of a guy like Adam Ottavino, who he's not the same pitcher he was from 2022. Jake Diekman is a soft tosser and doesn't have control. So those are the kind of guys that, you kind of want to steer away from as the season moves forward. But I'm looking at some of these comments here. They're saying to DFA Jake Diekman. I said the same thing, but like, who are you going to put to be that lefty out of the pen? And, I'm thinking, you look internally, you got a guy like Sean Manaea, and I know he's been a solid starter, but he also has come out of the bullpen. And now at some point, either him or a guy like David Peterson is going to have to go into that bullpen. Let me ask you, who would you put in the bullpen to be that lefty if, like, say we got rid of a Jake Diekman?
I would definitely say Peterson, without a doubt. That would be the best candidate to do so.
Now, like, I'm thinking too, because Sean Manaea has pitched in the bullpen, and he's pitched pretty decently with San Francisco last year. That's another option, and that's why I think like they'll be doing this in-house. We'll see. I think we're going to see a lot more change once Kodai Senga returns. There's a lot of movement's going to happen.
It's going to give us some flexibility that we didn't have before. And it'll be able to enable us to make a move like that. I don't think it's going to be Manaea. I think they're going to keep Manaea where he is. He's more, I guess he's got more seniority because he's more of a veteran. And, Peterson has been up and down. And I think I think the move would more readily be him for that reason. And I think he could find a really good role there and really help the team win. So the more we think about Peterson in the pen, the more I like it.
He's been very helpful in the rotation so far this season, but we always know that as well as he gives us, those 4 good innings, there's always a possibility of that kind of Steven Matz implosion that we've seen from him in the past. But so far, so good with Francisco Alvarez. And we go back to Francisco Alvarez and what he's done, with these pitchers, and he's done such a great job. Junior Swingman brings up a good point, because this guy gets totally forgotten. He thinks that Joey Lucchesi can be brought in to be a lefty reliever. He just has been that forgotten guy. What are your thoughts on Joey Lucchesi possibly being that guy?
Joe Lucchesi. Whoa, 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 Joe Lucchesi. Oh, I would love that. I love Joey. I love his parents, Michelle. Shout out to Michelle. I really think a lot of times when we call on this Lucchesi kid, he helps us. He's more than willing to get in where he fits in. And I'm sure he would not have a problem fulfilling that role. That is a great point by Junior Swingman. Let's not forget about our guy, Joey.
I muted myself. That happens every so often, so we'll go with it. But like I said, with Joey Lucchesi, he, we saw him in spring training, and he only had that one start, send him down to the minors. He came up, he had one start here, they sent him down to the minors, and it's like we totally forget that he's around because he's not talked about as much, especially with the emergence of Christian Scott and a lot of the other pitchers that have helped out in this team. And I think that's another guy that the Mets should give an opportunity to. They have a lot of options, and that's why I don't think we'll see them that active at this moment in time in the trade market. You look at other options internally for this bullpen. We've heard a little bit this past week and last week about Eric Orrs. He could be an option that they can go to. You look at Shintaro Fujinami, who's kind of had a little bit of a resurgence as well in the minor leagues. Bryce Montes de Oca is another guy who's coming back from Tommy John surgery that they can get into. And obviously Tyler McGill. I think it's time, and I don't know if you agree with me, I think it's time to put Tyler McGill in the bullpen.
Yeah, I mean, look, Tyler McGill has had a lot of opportunities for the starter role. It's been up and down. It's not the worst thing in the world if we need him to help us out in the pen. Look, Tyler, I'm not hating at all. I'm not a hater, but maybe the pen is the move. It's about winning games. I really think you can help us there. I'm really positive, so I don't want to say anything bad about my guy McGill. But he's had plenty of opportunities in that starter role. So let's try the bullpen, and I think you can help us out there.
Who knows? Maybe he could even be as successful as his brother is in the bullpen for Milwaukee. So it might work out. It's just these guys have to, like you said, they got to be willing to help this team out in any way possible, in any position possible. And if they can do that, this team, I feel like, can go very far, and we could be on the winning side of things. I know we're one game under 500 again, but we're only what is it? 2.5 games out of a wild card position. The Mets are still in this. They have the talent to do it, and they just need to put it all together at once. I want to transition with you and talk about the All-Star game. I'm not big on the All-Star game as I used to be when I was a kid, but the Mets will have a representative. They have not chosen one yet. They will have one, and I think it's really between two people. And I talked about this on Mets Weekly last night on their show, and there was a couple of options out there, but I want to focus on two, and that's how we ended, was focusing on these two players, Francisco Lindor and Brandon Nimmo. Now, I got their stats here that I want to throw at you. This season, Francisco Lindor pretty much kind of turned around the first half, that April disappointment that he had to start the season, very cold. But he has turned around his season, batting .246, 15 homers, 43 RBIs. He's got 15 stolen bases and a .756 OPS. You go to Brandon Nimmo, .245 batting average, 13 homers, 52 RBIs, 7 stolen bases, and an .807 OPS. Now, I had to dive a little bit deeper into their stats, because you look at Francisco Lindor leading off, is where kind of everything has turned around for him. .294, 8 homers, 23 RBIs, 11 walks, and an .877 OPS. Where Nimmo has moved in has been very successful, batting second, .338 batting average, 6 homers, 20 RBIs, 11 walks, and a 1.120 OPS. So a little bit similar in their stats since moving to their now, like, I guess they're where they're going to be for now, their permanent positions at this moment in time in the lineup. And I had to go even a little deeper and go now to them with runners in scoring position. You look at Francisco Lindor, it's been a struggle for him this season. He's only batting .227. He's got 3 homers, 26 RBIs, 8 walks, and a .734 OPS. And now when it comes to Brandon Nimmo, .356 batting average with runners in scoring position, 3 homers, 35 RBIs, 12 walks, and a 1.094 OPS. So, Jingle Man, I want to get to you and see, who do you think? I think both of them can make it. I wouldn't be upset if either of them. It's not going to bother me either way. I think they both deserve it. If you had to pick one, and I'm going to throw this out to the chat as well, if you're picking one of these guys with the stats that I've given you, who is it that is going to the All-Star game for the New York Mets?
I would. Did you check the defensive stats as well? Do we have like a?
I did not check their defensive metrics. I failed when it came to that part. I should have checked, but I kept it more offensive. I did not check their defense.
All right. I'm gonna go with Francisco Lindor. I think as much as I love Brandon, and I do acknowledge the batting average with runners in scoring position. I do acknowledge Brandon's success with leading the team in RBI. I believe that's the case. He's been phenomenal since the lineup move. But Francisco Lindor, from a leadership standpoint, a defensive standpoint, there's a lot of things that he does that aren't talked about very much, but watching the game, watching every pitch of every game, talking to, the different players that he's around, situationally, like, oh, you should have let the ball drop there. We could have gotten 2. He's like a coach on the field. And he's had a rough go with a lot of the negative fans. And I really think someone like him deserves that type of acknowledgement to be an all-star, because through it all, he's remained positive. He never ducks an interview. And his performance on the field since he's gotten hot has really helped this baseball team and propel them forward into wins. And, my heart says Lindor. So that's who I'm going to go with. No disrespect to Brando though, because you guys know how often I jingle on a nightly basis. It seems like for Brandon Nimmo. All right, so I love both of them, but I'm going to go with Lindor.
I think that the fact also that last year he totally got screwed out of an all-star spot last year, one of those final spots. He was having a phenomenal season, even better than this turnaround that he's had this year, and he definitely deserved to be in the all-star game for the last year, even 2022, and just has not been able to get there with the Mets. And it's also hard to look at their defensive metrics. I feel like shortstop's a way harder position than Brandon Nimmo playing left field. If he was in center field, I think it would be a little bit different. But the fact that he's now moved over to left field, and it's a little bit different for them when it comes defensively. And I feel like they count more of this offensive stats and all that stuff. He hasn't won a Gold Glove with the Mets yet either when it comes to Lindor, and he's probably deserved to here. Although I feel like he's having a worse defensive season this year. He's got a lot more errors this year than he's had in the past. But yeah, I can't go wrong with any of these guys. You're going with Lindor. We got a couple people in the chat here. Maureen thinks it should be Brandon Nimmo should be the one that goes there. Frank Majors agrees with you and says Francisco Lindor should be in the All-Star game. It's a good conversation to have because you're having a really good season from both of these guys. I know Lindor got off to that rough start. Even Nimmo had that part in the season when they moved him to batting third, where he was just, I think he was definitely batting under Mendoza line. He was batting, I think, like 093. So the fact that they moved him second, and those two now have kind of been that staple at the top of the lineup, coming up with big hits, scoring big runs, I think that they will be locked into that role as we move forward with the season, and as the season hopefully gets us to a possible postseason berth. Once again, I'm here with Greg, aka the Jingle Man. And Jingle Man, we are going to get into the series preview with the Pittsburgh Pirates. I got a couple graphics to show you here, and let's start off with the tale of the tape between these two teams. The Mets in third place right now, 42-43 in the National League East. You look at the Pirates in the NL Central, fourth, 41-45, and they're only a game and a half behind the Mets in the wild card race. I tend to not look at the wild card until we get closer to the trade deadline to see where the Mets are at, but they're still a part of this run we're going on right now. And Mets pretty much a way better hitting team, so this should be good for this pitching staff for the Mets starters here. You look at the batting average for the Pittsburgh Pirates, 228. Home runs 82. They got 333 RBI, stolen bases 47, OPS 656. The Mets have, since this run they've been going on, have really brought up their stats. 247 batting average, 109 RBIs, 398. 109 home runs, 398 RBIs. They have 64 stolen bases and a 734 OPS. So Pittsburgh's pitching obviously better because they got Paul Skeens in there. They got Mitch Keller and Young in there. So their staff is a little bit better. 3.94 ERA to the Mets 4.14. They have kind of similar in strikeouts, 734 for Pittsburgh, 737 for the Mets. And then you talk about walks, and the Mets continue to walk a lot of batters. They have 329 walks to the Pittsburgh Pirates, 259. So you look at this tale of the tape, and what does this tell you, Jingle Man, about what we can look forward to when it comes to this series with Pittsburgh? This 4-game set, it's pivotal, and it could be a trap series because the Mets don't play well in Pittsburgh, that's for sure.
Yeah, so I'm looking at our offense versus their pitching, right? Strength versus strength. And for us, especially against Skeens and, their other stronger pitchers, we're going to have to work counts. We are going to have to run this guy's pitch count up to get his ass out of the game as quickly as possible. We can't be impatient at the plate. We can't give away at bats. We have to be competitive in a strategic way like that. If we work the counts and run up their pitch count, especially Skeens, I like our chances tonight and in this series. I fully expect at least a split from this series or at least to take 3. But in order for us to do that offensively, we are going to have to run their pitch counts up high early on, get them out of the game, get into their bullpen. From our pitching standpoint, our pitchers, our starters, it's the same story. You could say the same stuff every single series. We need quality starts every single game this series. We need you to go more than 5, though. We need you to go at least 6 1/3, 6 2/3. 7 plus is found money because this bullpen, they carried the team. They've carried this team until they got broken. Okay. Now we need to pay our bullpen back that favor. All right. So we need our starters to go deeper into games, give this bullpen a little bit more of a break. Diaz comes back, I believe, Saturday or Sunday. All right. And we can start healing them from there. But starters, I'm talking to you. We need quality starts.
Well, let's look into the pitching probables of this series since you mentioned the starters.
Yeah.
You got Luis Severino going in game 1 against Paul Skeens. 4-0, 2.06 ERA. Paul Skeens has been as advertised for the Pittsburgh Pirates, but this is a really good matchup to me here, and probably the matchup I'm looking forward to the most. Then you got David Peterson going in game 2, 3-0, 3.51 ERA up against Bailey Falter, who's 4-6 with a 3.87 ERA. Sean Manaea going in game 3, 5-3 to 3.67 ERA. Right now, this matchup is to be determined. We don't know who Pittsburgh, at least on their website and on the Mets website, there's no pitcher at this moment in time. And then on Monday, Christian Scott 0-2 with a 4.32 ERA going up against Mitch Keller, who's 9-5 with a 3.48 ERA. Jingle Man, which matchup are you looking forward to the most? Do you agree with me? You think it's this first game, Severino versus Paul Skeens?
I'm not looking forward to Skeens at all, to be honest. Like, I know it'll be a thrilling pitching matchup. But the one that I'm looking forward to the most is Scott versus Keller. I think the two young guns will go at it, and it'll be fun to watch. Yeah, Peterson against Falter. Hey, that seems like a familiar name? Did Falter play for us at all, or
not that I know of?
Okay, but the Peterson Falter that's an interesting.
He was on Philly.
Oh, is that why the name's familiar? Yeah. I that's a very intriguing matchup right there as well. Hopefully our guy can hold his end of the bargain, but I'm hoping we could take that one. But yeah, Scott versus Keller would be my pick. Tonight, I'm not looking forward to tonight because, the 1-0 that just happened in Washington with that young gun over there, that was that really, pissed me off and knocked me off my game. I'm hoping that our attack is a little bit different tonight against this ace.
I also wonder if going from that night game into that really early morning game had any effect on the team whatsoever. I mean, both teams are going through it, but you just got to wonder if that kind of threw the Mets off there whatsoever. I mean, it didn't throw Jose Quintana off, but the offense just was not there. And I just want to throw some players to watch in this series. I got some from the Mets. I got some from Pittsburgh. Let's start off with Pittsburgh. Obviously, you got to look at O'Neal Cruz. Over the last 5 games, .313 batting average. He's got a home run, 3 RBIs, a double, 3 walks, a stolen base, a .984 OPS. Another batter, center fielder Jack Suwinski, .333 batting average, a home run, 3 RBIs, 1 double, a 1.052 OPS in his last 5 games. And when it comes to pitching, got to be Paul Skeens. Who else is it going to be? 1.38 ERA. He's got 17 strikeouts in 13 innings pitched. Obviously, who worries you here the most out of these 3 guys?
It's Skeens. Skeens is a dog, man. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. And he's winning at life, too. I don't know if you've seen his social media, but he's doing pretty well for himself there, too, in that category.
Is he dating some model? I can't remember her name.
I don't know her name, but I do know she's beautiful. There's like a photo of them on a boat somewhere. But anyway, that doesn't make him special, because when you're a pro ball player, your woman's going to be beautiful regardless, right? But yeah, no, this kid is amazing. I'm hoping that the Mets can just do what I said and run my game plan. I know I'm not the manager, but we got to work that pitch count, man. We got to knock him out early.
Well, like our guy Hector in Washington Heights, Blunt Thoughts says, where did that go? Okay, there it is. Fuck Skeens.
I know, Big Heck. I know, OG Big Heck. I saw what you said earlier today. I'm of that mindset too. We got to beat him, but that don't mean that we can't respect him too, though. I respect his craft. We'll see. I may say F Skeens later on after we beat him, hopefully.
Well, let's look at some of the players that the Pirates are going to have to watch out for when it comes to the Mets. Mark Vientos has had a really good 6 days, .292 batting average, 2 homers, 7 RBIs, 2 doubles, a walk, and a .945 OPS. You go along, and we talked about him all this show today, and that's Brandon Nimmo, .316 batting average, 1 homer, 6 RBIs. He's got 3 doubles. He's got 2 walks, 2 stolen bases. For a guy that really doesn't steal that much, he's doing a pretty good job of it this season. 1.013 OPS in his last 5 games. And the pitcher, Sean Manaea, 1-0, 0.75 ERA and 8 strikeouts in 12 innings pitched. Who do you got looking into this, Jingle Man?
He can bat and can bunt, a good base runner who flies. Vientos fresh and full of life. His hitting is proof. There's no ceiling or roof. Vientos fresh and full of life. Fresh goes better, Vientos freshness. Fresh goes better, Vientos fresh and full of life. Vientos, the fresh maker.
As Shea Parking Lot puts it as well, the fresh maker, Mark Vientos. He's not playing tonight. He's off tonight. I looked at the lineup, and it's going to be Jose Iglesias at third base. You got Jeff McNeil batting second. Not batting second. He's playing second base, and then you have Harrison Bader back in the lineup. So they're giving Mark Vientos the night off, especially against this flamethrower in Paul Skeens. Let me ask you a little bit about Mark Vientos and what you've seen from him this season and what you like from him so far.
I just like the kid's grit, the positive attitude. He's the confidence too. He really had to be thick-skinned. He had to be relentless. He had to, he had to be a dog to be in the situation that he's been in. What I'm most impressed with is his power, the power to dead center. A lot of these hits look like they're pop flies, right? I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, is that going to go too? And the trajectory on these things, they're monsters. So his power is unbelievable. Another thing I've noticed throughout every level that he's completed in the minors, he's also been able to hit for average. He's hitting for average again now to accompany the power. So that's impressive, and that is going to be something to watch. I can't wait until we can get like a 4 or a 500 at bat sample in the majors, and I can't wait to see if the batting average holds up after we have that large of a sample size. I'm hoping we see something between 280 and 290. If you see that and power, your young man is going to get paid. But he is extremely impressive all around, and I really admire his fortitude throughout all of this.
You know, it's so funny you mentioned like some of his home runs look like pop fly. His latest home run, I was like, man, that just looked like a fly ball to me. I didn't think that was going to go, and it was dead center power from Mark Vientos. Yeah, the fact that he's hitting for average, the fact that he has really been the one of the, I guess you want to call the baby Mets, if you still want to call him that, but he's really been the one to go through each and every level and get a long amount of playing time there to, I guess, hone his craft and become the player that he is right now. Because you remember, Francisco Alvarez pretty much did not get much time in AAA. Neither did Brett Beatty. Brett Beatty only got about 5 games and came up here, and he's been shuffled back up and down to the minors. So you look at Mark Vientos, who's pretty much gotten the time he's needed. And that's probably why he's playing so well right now. And the fact that on top of that, he has given us a decent amount of defense, just the amount that we need from him at third base to be a comparable third baseman. You saw the work that he did with Francisco Lindor in the offseason, playing the infield. And we might have somewhat of a complete player here, comparable to Alec Bohm, I would say.
Yeah, the defense to me still needs work. There have been some isolated moments that he could improve, but you could say that about most major leaguers. But it's on its way. You can see the progress. You can see the hard work, the work that he put in the offseason with Lindor. The kid's future is bright. He just has to continue to work hard, and it's all right there in front of him.
Jingle Man, you're a man of positivity, and I want to get from you before we wrap up this show, what do you got for the Met fans and how they should kind of handle these next couple of weeks? Obviously, this series coming up against Pittsburgh this is just a big month in general for this team. It will determine the fate of the rest of the season. They had the bad May. They got back and had a good June. Carlos Mendoza has pretty much been holding this team down as the best way that he's could. You got the infusion of JD Martinez, the baby Mets, as you call Alvarez and Vientos, have shown out. And, the bringing up a guy like Jose Iglesias and the leadership that he's brought to this team, the OMG, you could talk about Grimace, all the things aside, what do you want to see from this team? How should Met fans kind of hunker down and react going forward when we talk about leading up to this trade deadline?
Yeah, the expectation for Met fans is to go, 10-5 through the next 15. I think if we're at a point, and we hit the deadline and we're 2 to 3 games above 500, we've won. We've won, meaning like we're going to have a season in the second half. We have a lot to look forward to. You look at over 3 games over 300 going into the deadline. We've got to look at ways that we could improve our ball club. Like from a buying standpoint, I don't know what that looks like because you and I just went through great detail talking about how the more likely scenario is us replenishing from within. So who knows what that ends up looking like. But the point is, as Met fans, we have a lot of excitement ahead of us, and we've got a season to look forward to. 3 wild card spots. You don't have to, if you're 3 games over 500 going into the deadline, you don't just have to look at the 3rd wild card spot. You could look for the 2nd wild card spot, or maybe even, dare I say, contend for the 1st wild card spot. Guys, we could possibly go to the playoffs. Get excited about that. All right. But don't drive yourself crazy. Don't drive yourself crazy, fans. I know some of you guys are going to be, negativos. The negativos are going to negativo. The cancelers are going to cancel. They already canceled a long time ago, but you still see them, tweeting and talking about it. They're excited behind closed doors, but they can't be excited in the open because they canceled. Whatever. All right. But us positivos, let's continue to party. Let's continue to have a good time. Your team is feeding off of your positivity, and vice versa. We're feeding off of theirs. Just look at the vibes, guys. The vibes are crazy. Okay. We had Rally Pimp. Now we had Grimace. Grimace at Shea Bridge. I was there. I was in the Piazza Club, though. I had no idea that Grimace was chugging beers at Shea Bridge. If I did, I would have been there in the rain. But I was with my cousins in the Piazza Club chugging beers. But Grimace chugging a beer and lightning going off in the background as he raises his arms. Guys, these are vibes. These are signs. And you guys will always have me and Jordan and all of the athlete logos and all the great positivo Mets personalities. Just ride the wave, baby. Good times ahead.
Yeah, I had a talking to a Met fan on Twitter yesterday, and all I said was, just enjoy your 4th of July. Don't worry about this loss. It happens, they just got outplayed. That's all that happened. Some people are taking it way too much to heart. You can't let this is just supposed to be fun. You can't let this stuff affect you every time. But look, I know there are a lot of diehard fans and everyone reacts their own way. I don't try to tell anyone how they should react or behave as Met fans and what they should believe or not believe. Everyone's going to do their own thing, but I like that you stay positive, Jingle Man. I try my best to do that, although guys like Jake Diekman kind of want to take that away from me every so often. But I want to get to some of these comments here before we wrap up the show. And I will say this. I would like to see the Mets within 3 games of the wild card, at least 5 games over 500. We're both close. You said 3. I'm saying 5. I think that would be a telltale of how they can, I guess, be buyers at the trade deadline here. Shea Parking Lot says kudos to Mendy and the work that he's done. G Money Stack saying, let's hope that the Mets can win a game 1 and stay above 500. If they win game 1, they'll get to 500 because they're 1 game under. But I agree. Let's end this series and be over 500 when the series is over. Maureen says, trust in David Stearns. That's the big bright spot, I think. You trust in David Stearns, and I think we will see a totally different trade deadline than we've seen in the past. Shea Parking Lot saying, stay in the hunt. Rest of the league is bad. Frank Major saying, if the Mets play as a team, we sweep and kick butts. Hey, if they can get all together in one, we know we haven't really seen it where we've gotten the hitting, pitching, and bullpen in together all at once. It's been like either one or the other's been working or the other one's not working. So we'll see. Maureen saying believe. Duran Rivera saying let's go Mets. Blunt Thoughts saying 10 games before the deadline. Anything less than 6-4 is unacceptable. 7-3 should be the goal. 8-2 would be phenomenal. I totally agree with that. I think that's a good idea. And Carlos Ortiz saying he expects to be buyers at the deadline. Blunt Thought saying, how about us realists? Where do we stand, Jingle?
Realists are realists. Just like you said, 6-4, anything less is unacceptable. That's fine. But some realists skew on the negativo side. Some realists skew on the positivo side. You could be a positive or a negative realist. I can't diagnose you, Big Heck OG. I'm not going to do that if that's what you're looking for. You are what you say you are. How about that?
Shea Parking Lot saying best community, no matter negativos or positivos. And I got to agree. I think the Mets fan base is one of the best out there, no matter what side you stand on. And you look, Jingle Man, it's been a whole lot of fun having you on here. Let us know what tunes you're working on, what you got going forward, and you know how people can interact with you, because you're very on when it comes to being on X.
Yeah, so Jordan and I are continuing to work together on a number of projects. He's been very busy. I've been very busy, but we are going to connect soon on a couple of things. I don't want to give anything away, but it's pretty exciting stuff. You know, the magic that we create. I'm going to continue with my in-game content. He's going to continue with obviously his wrap-ups as well from a solo standpoint. I did start to write new jingles for a few players, so stay tuned for that. And you know, more of the same. But as you guys know, the more we win, the more I jingle. Oh, you know what? I'll announce it here on the show. If the Mets win this series against the Pirates, the Jingle Nation, I'm announcing it here, Jingle Nation will have a new episode of A Boo Boo Boo. That's right. We just have to win the series, and we will get a new A Boo 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 episode. All right.
Sweet stuff from you as always, Jingle Man. And I got to shout out as well to your partner there, Jordan, because I got to get him on the show at some point. I always see him at Citi Field. I have yet to see you at Citi Field because I know you're at the games as well. So we got to make that happen.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've been to 5 games so far this year. I'm definitely planning on going to fireworks night with the family. The Mets have a few fireworks nights coming up. And yeah, I mean, obviously, I'll be at the stadium at least 5 more times this year. I intend to, at least. So I'll see you.
All right, Jingle Man. I appreciate you always for chiming in with me. You're always a part of my spaces that I do monthly, and it's always good to just chat with you and just now see you in person, actually. Even though it's only through the internet and through computer, it's always a lot of fun just chatting it up with you, man. So I appreciate you.
Anthony, it's an honor. You're a well put together young man who knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about. So it's always wonderful to connect with you. I'm proud of the work that you do. I mean, I'm seeing you all over the place. You're on SNY. Did I see you on SNY? Right? You were in an interview with. Anyway.
Yeah. I did one with every so often I get to go on with Dexter Henry. So SNY, New York Post. It's been a lot of fun.
You're all over the place. So I'm proud of you. I'm proud of the work that you do. It's an honor to be on the show. Call me anytime, bro.
All right, Jingle Man, I appreciate you so much. And before we wrap up, shout out to the 101 people who joined us today for this episode. Appreciate every single one of you. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the Subway to Shea podcast on YouTube. If you want to listen, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can follow me on X, Instagram, and TikTok at Subway to Shea and X at Aunt Rivera 86. And follow Jingle Man at Real Black 14, correct? At Real Black 14. Got it. All right. Jingle Man, it's always fun talking to you. I also want to shout out to Blunt Thoughts one more time because he's got a live during the game. He does the live watch along. So make sure you come over and check him out for his show during the game. Sometimes he has guests on. Sometimes he just does a solo, but it's always fun to hear his blunt thoughts. So I appreciate everyone for tuning in to Subway to Shea today. Make sure you, like I said, do all the following, subscribing, all that stuff, and check out Jingle Man, chat with him, and chat with us when we do spaces. I do one at least monthly, but I'm sure that there are other great content creators as well that throw spaces out there. So make sure you check them out. But for Anthony Rivera, for Jingle Man, for Subway to Shea, always, always, always believe in these Mets because you know what? You got to believe. And I like to end the show always saying, let's go Mets.